Personally, when it comes to optimization, that's my favorite part of the game. Not to say the other elements of Anno 1800 aren't. There are a lot of things that I very, very much enjoy. But I've always been the type of player that likes to break things. Not in the way of, like, physically, like, grabbing a brick and chucking it in the window. No, I want to do that to the announcer or the editor. But what I mean by breaking is, how fast can I actually make some production chains? And how incredible they become later on. I'm going to teach you how to do that today. Let's get started. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Anno 1800 Beginner's Guide series. I just wanted to start off by saying I hope you all had a fantastic holiday season and new year. And like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about optimizations. I love this part of the game so much. And it makes me feel all happy and giddy because I know, like, oh, I'm doing something that's like I'm gonna make these production chains even more powerful, right? So what I've done since the last episode is I've done a couple of things, not a hell of a lot, but some. First things first is, as you can see here on Roma, a lot of the chains are gone, and we have an icon above the heavy weapons factory because this thing no longer has the capability of producing any more heavy weapons, so we're going to have to get rid of it. And let's go ahead and do that. The other thing is that you'll notice our maintenance costs are out the wazoo. This tends to happen when you're making an industrial island, so don't freak out. The main reason for this is because you are transferring over a lot of the chains that you had here. The stability that you had on your island is kind of wonky, I guess is probably the best way of putting it. So again, if you are maxed out on all your resources and you're on a lower difficulty mode, if you want to conserve all of the stuff that you receive from this and it doesn't end up in the harbor like so, you can always try to export some of these items, put them into a ship. So let's see, for all intents and purposes, what is used for this. So a little bit of everything. We have these two ships. We can just bring them over here. We can just stuff all these particular items into these ships just for a little bit, and then go ahead and delete the factory itself. So in the Regent, we're going to take, we'll take 50 of each of the main stuff. How about that? And same with the snapping turtle. I need some reinforced concrete. Perfect. And then we can go over here and delete the actual building. And as you see here, when we deleted it, it says Roma has reached a new level of attractiveness. That is because all the pollution officially is gone from the island, minus the oil refinery. So the actual plants are gone. That's good. That's what we want to see. And that would actually help us as well with these investors who are still kind of unhappy, but that is mostly because of the news being an issue. But as for pollution, it's now at 0. And a big green little happy face right there, which means that they're all fine and dandy for the most part, right? We also have these resources in these ships. Oh, I did not mean to click you. Go back to work. And we'll just hold them in there. We don't have to do much with them. It is what it is. But the cool thing is, if you guys noticed, we have a lot of resources in here. Okay? And how is that possible, you ask? Your passive trade. It's constantly working for you. You literally have to do nothing. It's just going to bring all these resources in here for you completely. Like, you don't have to worry about this at all. Go do whatever heck else you want. You can be working on Capua for all intents and purposes, and then later on you can go back once you actually have a lot of resources in here. So we actually do have a fair amount in here. That's really solid. So there is one other thing that I do want to just mention off the bat here. So we have, I want to say, around 2 or 3 cargo steamers heading back towards Roma with goods. And here's the one. The Wild Thing 2 has an interesting load to it, okay? I might be in the minority when I'm going to talk about this, because a lot of Anno 1800 players have different ways of setting up trade routes, but I will talk about it anyway because it works for me. As you can see here, this particular ship is bringing in sausages, soap, and canned food to the capital, okay? What tends to happen from time to time is if you choose to actually go, let's say we're actually in the routes themselves, and we look at this, And we say, for example, the capital's not struggling when it comes to sausages. I know how that sounds, okay? Let me cook for a moment here. But it is having an issue with soap and canned food. In the event that you want to change one of these, right? Let's say you want to change one of these sausages to canned food, the ship or the game itself does not do a good job of navigating around this. What I mean by that is, let's say we went ahead and made this like 5 slots of canned food, 1 slot of sausages, but we did not get rid of the sausages that were in the ship before we did that. What tends to happen is these 2 slots, they remain locked until you manually get rid of the goods that are in there. So there is a way that you can circumnavigate this. And again, this is, I might be in the minority when I talk about it. What you can do, like let's use the Medusa here for an example, because we're going to have to use it in a moment anyway. If we're planning on, let's say, bringing in sewing machines. Sewing machines is a good one, because we need sewing machines over there. What you can do is you can click on one, and you fill out this right here. And if you hold down left shift, you'll notice the icon to its right becomes a little bit of a dark, like golden color, right? And then if you click again on the sewing machines, it'll completely fill it up. What this ship is essentially only going to manage is the sewing machine trade. And for me, this tends to work when a ship is set for one particular good. That way, I can see that this ship is only going to be using and transporting this particular good, and I don't have to really worry about it with micromanagement. There is a positive side and a negative side to this. I'm actually going to start this trade because Roma actually is lacking some sewing machines, so I'm going to get this started right now and set it to the Roma Ultra route. The downside to this is you're going to have a couple more ships than normal, and with a couple more ships comes maintenance costs and upkeep requirements through your influence. I say it that way. This is a good thing and a bad thing. If you're capable of managing all of that, sure, that's fantastic. I actually encourage you try to do that. But in the event that you cannot, and you have to rely on something like the previous ship that we saw, which is now over in this corner somewhere, it might be... You know what? Which island is this? You have nothing that's important here that I care about. Enjoy. The only thing that I would just say is make sure when you actually are at a point that you're optimizing to high hell, that you check these ships, check their destinations, see if they're actually lacking for anything, and then reconsider actually swapping them to just transport over one specific item. The other thing with this is that if you actually decide to upgrade the cargo ships to the extravaganza steamers, you will, in a way, make it a little bit easier for yourself, mostly through the maintenance costs, but not so much when it comes to the influence. Because the maintenance costs for those ones are only going to be 100 coins, where the maintenance or the influence cost is going to be higher. I don't remember it off the top of my head directly, but that's something that will happen. And do note, when you actually get more ships and more trade, you build up optimization and you build up the trade here. So movement speed with the brokers, what we're currently using, and this happens with when we're constantly trading amongst islands, amongst NPCs. So right now, all of our ships have a 7% movement buff. Ideally, we want to get to the Elite Magnet over here because 25% movement speed is nutty, right? Especially when you can go ahead and optimize your ships later on too to be even faster. Ooh, boy. You're in for a real fun time. Okay. So what have we done on Ultramar since you guys last saw it? Well, one thing is that we haven't really upgraded much of the steelworks over here with the furnaces, but we have indeed built another one for the steel beams itself. So we have 4 of these things working. We have built a secondary advanced weapons facility over here. We have expanded the window makers to 5. We've expanded over here with the reinforced concrete to 5. And we have these guys working, plus we've brought in some soap. I thought that it might be a little bit too much overkill to have 4 of these dynamite factories working, because the one is really sufficient enough. In the back here, like we saw before, we have 5 of these sausages working. We have 2 of the canneries. We built up this power station because our oil route is stable, moved it from this side of the road over to this side of the road, and now we have some sewing machines being made. Additionally, back here, I went ahead just for the hell of it. Apparently, you are too far away from a warehouse to be useful. Let's fix that really quick. I went ahead and built 5 of the lumberjack huts because we are in need of a lot of wood here. Mostly because now the sewing machines are going to require it, and along with the window makers. So, that is what the Docklands is primarily working on. And again, I'm going based off the assumption that you do have this now. So we brought in a whole bunch of the advanced weapons that were being processed on Roma over to here. And now what we really want to focus on is using some specialists. Now, I did go ahead and grab a couple in the in between episodes, and let's just go over them really quick. So we're not going to worry about Chef Michel. We already have him. We have Ferris. Ferris here is by far one of the best specialists to put into a trade union. Why? Because he can pretty much be placed with every single one. Let's go through them really quick. So his productivity increased by 50%. That in of it by itself is fantastic. Workforce requirement minus 10%. Always love to see it. Maintenance cost reduction minus 10%. Even better. Chance of riots minus 20%. Now, I tend to not really have riots when it comes to my industry. They have happened from time to time. I mostly have to deal with explosions and fires, which I'll talk about in a moment. But Ferris is a fantastic specialist. Like, if you see him in Eli's Port, and really the best place to find specialists at this point in the game for an industrial island is going to be Eli's Port, because he has so many really good ones. Like over here for animal farms, you get extra beef every 4 cycles. Pretty good. The Magnus, we have the oil power plants and power stations. This one's actually really, really good. I want to actually go ahead and grab this one because having some extra oil here to start off, if we can potentially position this one in a place that has an oil power plant that also has access to a trade union, so like right over here, this power plant will definitely help us with some additional oil every 5 cycle usage. So really, really solid on that one. Let's go and continue on. So we have another one here being the pantry chef. The pantry chef does something interesting with the cannery. Again, because we hate canned food in this game, the productivity boost is by default very good. But what is it actually doing? It's actually substituting the workforce. Instead of us using our artisans for this, it's going to change it up that our workers are actually going to be put into the canneries. That's pretty good. Again, I also should preface this. It really depends on the state of your campaign. Do you have enough of an expendable workforce to do this or not? That's really dependent on you. I think in our stage, we can definitely do that. Then we also have the cabinet maker. The cabinet maker is fantastic because not only is the productivity going to be boosted with the window makers primarily, I'm not so focused on the carpentry works, and I'll talk about what additional carpentry works are, but the productivity boost and the workforce requirement being minus 60% is going to be fan-freaking-tastic. Finally, we have the wrought ironsmith, of whom will affect the weapons factory, heavy weapons factory, and all arms producing multi-factories, excuse me. Productivity by 20% increase is always very good. On the industrious, which is kind of big chillin' near Wibbly's Harbor for some really stupid reason. I don't know why it's here. We have another really cool specialist being the steely-eyed steelsmith, which affects the steelworks, weapon factories, and heavy weapon factories. Now, this guy offers a boon to us, and it also provides us with a bit of a crutch. Now, the productivity boost is always fantastic, okay? But the maintenance cost by 50% extra is not. The negative attractiveness, because this is on an industrial island, is not really that important. Because this island, I'm being very honest with you, is straight up going to be Garbo, okay? It's not going to be a fun place to live. Once you actually build this place up, the culture is going to be gone. Well, not really. If you have Docklands, it's going to stay, I guess. But the countryside is going to be gone. The festivities will never happen. There shouldn't be any instability, but the pollution and vulgarity will definitely be there. So the negative attractiveness, reduction, it's not really that advantageous to have. But while the industrials is actually coming over here, let's see about these heavy weapon factories, because we want to make sure that these guys are going to be working faster than a minute, right? So let's take a look at the values. It's currently processing, the upkeep for this is ridiculous, at 2K just by itself. What the hell? Ah, yes. Thank you so much, game, for reminding me. Going to go here and request ceasefire. Thank you so much. And I do want to mention this. As you can see right now, with Anne, we're at 47 on her like reputation with us. At this stage, and this is actually, I've seen a lot of comments and whatnot asking, how do you really deal with pirates? Constant non-aggression pacts, they gradually decrease the amount that you have to pay them over time. But then when you get to this stage at 47, if you go here to treaties, you can actually request a peace treaty from them, and they will accept this. For 7K, we're now at peace with Anne Harlow, so we don't really have to worry about it too much. Later on, we can ask requests from her. We can actually go ahead and ask for trade rights right now, and we're definitely going to do that. So now we have trade with Anne. And one thing that's pretty cool when you trade with the pirates is now you can actually come in here, get some really cool ships from time to time. But also you do have a whole bunch of items here that you can get as well for your harbors and for your ships. If you want to optimize your battle cruisers later on, her harbor is probably the best place to do it. Like, you get torpedoes over here. You can even get some specialists as well, but they're on the for your industrial island, but they're kind of on the lower end of things. Like, you get a Congrave rocket over here, which increases the damage per shot of your ships. Then you also have like this one, the dynamic loudspeaker, which affects all defense turrets within radius of like your harbor masters or even the docklands itself. So ultimately, it's a good idea to eventually get to a point that you can trade with the pirates too. Initial NPC to trade with, I mean, it's never a bad thing. But look at this. She will purchase beer for 1K a pop. Okay, this is just another NPC you can trade with. You can also do a little bit of a cheese tactic. You can go from here, you can purchase the weapons from her, which are going to be 570, set up a route to go over to Isabel, because Isabel will purchase them at 912. That's just another little nifty trick you can throw into the mix, right? You don't have to do it, but you can, ultimately. So back over to the industrial island, let's go back to the heavy weapons facilities once more. And we'll notice that they're processing at 1 minute each. The engineer workforce is currently being used here is 250 for each one, so 500 total, and then minus 15 attractiveness for them both. Now, the industrialist is here, so I'm going to put the steely-eyed steelsmith in here to start off. But I want to put in Ferris first. I want you to see how powerful this particular specialist is. I don't know why I did. There we go. So always make sure that it highlights, that way you know for certain that it's actually going to be working. And now, with Ferris in there, they're at 48 seconds. Not bad. And the workforce decrease, minus 225 now. Pretty solid. And now they're each at 1.8k. But we're going to be probably, getting rid of that, unfortunately, because this guy is actually going to increase the maintenance cost. So let's put him in here. And that definitely went up, so now they are a lot more than what they used to be. It is what it is. The payoff is going to be better. 42 seconds for some advanced weapons. And then let's put the final guy in here. We're now processing advanced weapons once every 40 seconds. Now, you can even make this faster, okay? There are definitely specialists that will make this whole process even faster than 40 seconds. You can get them into 20 seconds easily, okay? The downside to this, again, is the maintenance costs going up, but now we do have a fair amount of engineer workforce that we can expend to other locations. Additionally, we have a specialist when it comes to the canneries, which we want to put in the pantry chef, and we're going to put her in, and you'll notice our artisan workforce went up, and our worker workforce went down. But now these guys are going to be processing canned food at 39 seconds, as opposed to what it was before at 45 seconds, because Chef Michelle is not actually increasing the productivity bonus of that. The last one being over here for the window makers, being the cabinet maker. Productivity by 30%, workforce requirement minus 60%. Watch the artisans rise. That is a lot, okay? That is a lot of people. And we want to make sure later on we get these guys over to engineers, because we want to get more engineers here. So let's just go and take a quick look and see how many weapons we're actually making here. we're first of all with the sewing machines, we're making 8 per minute, which is fantastic. The windows now are processing at 12 per minute. That's incredible. Canned food, where you at? Canned food is still 3 per minute because they are on the slower end. Again, you can make this a little bit faster later on. Let's see about going down here. So advanced weapons, we are actually processing 3 per minute. That is not too bad. Okay, not too bad. But what's happening here is that now our dynamite factory isn't processing enough, which means we are going to have to reallocate some of the workforce that we got towards building this dynamite factory. And once we have that going, then we can probably build like maybe 2 more of these guys, and then we should be relatively even. And we also have Captain Tobias trading over here, which is fantastic because he's just taking a whole bunch of these advanced weapons. We kind of want to swap out the steel here. We don't want to make sure that he's trading a whole bunch of the steel because the steel is being used to process advanced weapons and the steel beams along with reinforced concrete. A nice little way of circumnavigating the steel requirement is just for the interim, you can go heavy on processing the windows because later on, window production can be very fast. So like right now they're at 26 seconds. There are specialists that allow you to get windows to actually around like 15 seconds. Okay, they can go really damn fast. And in the next episode, because we do have a fair amount of resources in here, I definitely want to start talking about another DLC, which I highly recommend you guys invest into getting, which is the Seat of Power. Pretty much what this is, well, I'll go over it further in the next episode, but just to give you a little bit of a heads up on what this does, it is a fantastic admin source. Okay, it's an admin source. You can essentially build a mega palace on your main island and then build palace administrations, which I like to call them palace administrations, but they're the actual way of saying it is local departments on other islands that extend the radius and effectiveness of that particular island based off of policies you choose. So in the next episode, we're going to be talking about the Seat of Power DLC and how it can affect an industrial island like this, because I will tell you, this DLC can impact the speed in which you process more advanced weapons. And we like warmongering in this household. Alrighty, so just to go ahead and check in with Roma one last time, we've gotten rid of all the dirty jobs on here for the most part. What we will probably have to do, just additional pre-planning and admin work, is we are going to want to restructure this area altogether because this is an industrial quarter no longer. Our plan is to extend upon the city, probably work it all the way over to here, build up in here, and then focus on building it up into this direction. Unfortunately, you cannot ever get rid of oil springs like these, so they will remain constant on your islands. I know it sucks, but unfortunately, it is what it is. But in this middle section, we can definitely make something really cool. We can either build a palace here, or we can consider working on the World's Fair, which this building is also quite cool. But I definitely want to talk about the palace first, because this one is going to be more impactful in my humble opinion. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this final episode for the Industrial Island. Do note that everything after this point you are more than capable of working with. I would always recommend that you have an oil island specifically set for your Industrial Island, and that comes from the New World. I have not built one yet. I'll show it to you guys in the next episode just for total clarity. And literally you can put anything else you want on here. Light bulbs, you know, later on with taxi cabs, when we get back to it, we can have filament factories. We will have spectacles come over here. You can have a whole bunch of other food productions be placed over here and just really centralize everything into this island. Yes, you're going to have a bunch of ships going to and from this location, but don't worry. You can always go ahead and put awesome specialists to make every single thing on this island even more incredible. If you guys have any questions about anything that we talked about in this video, or you're confused about anything or want some additional help, please, by all means, put it in the comment section. I'm more than happy to help you get through it. I also want to mention that I am going to be pushing the Discord. This is going to be the last episode that I talk about the Discord in the end of the episode. I will be talking them in the beginning of every episode from now on because I want to boost community-based events and to get to know you all a lot better. So, until next time, my friends, thank you so much. Please consider like, commenting, subscribing, hitting that bell button, sharing it with your friends, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, my Rantians.